I just spilled coffee all over my leg. Makes me feel like a little kid. Can't even carry the coffee up the stairs. In this episode of Unfiltered Thoughts from a Graphic Designer, we are going to be talking about pricing, plagiarism in design, building a design studio, and a bunch more. Let's get into it. So it's a nice rainy day, recording this episode in the morning. It's feeling good. Got the coffee ready to go. If you're new here, welcome back to Unfiltered Thoughts from a Graphic Designer. This is a show where I talk about graphic design, creativity, art, freelancing, whatever it may be. Lately, I've been building my own design studio as to have more of a separation from my client work and me, Jesse Nyberg, or Permanent Glue, the Instagram stuff, Twitter, social media, and like my actual work, you know. The kind of blessing and the curse of growing more of an online audience and putting out content and making videos. I really like it and I really enjoy that stuff. And the privileges far outweigh the cons in terms of having people to reach, having a community, and just having a platform. But sometimes when I want to just, post client work or do release products or this stuff, it doesn't really need to be associated with all of that, So at the bare minimum, I wanted that separation. And that's why I launched Questa Studio, which is my independent design studio. And, the word studio can kind of be used loosely, at least for now, because it's pretty much just me working out of my home office. But who knows? Maybe it'll stay like that forever, and that's that. That's just my client design work practice. Or maybe I'll end up hiring some people. At the very least, I want to be able to work on bigger projects and be able to hire on a bunch of my dope freelancer friends who do illustration, photography, all that stuff. And, also not just to have it as a separation of my personal work and my content on here as Jesse Nyberg, but to have something to create my own products and release my own stuff. That's been pretty cool so far. It's been nice to even just post stuff on the Instagram, right? I have a Questa Studio Instagram page. And thank you all so much. If anyone watching this is already following that, it has like 2,000 followers already now, which is crazy. To think it took me over 2 or 3 years, I think, to grow my original Permanent Glue Instagram page to 2,000 followers. And now it has 100 something K. The fact that I can just port that over to Questa Studio and grow it to 2,000 followers in like a month or two, that's pretty awesome. So I appreciate that. But yeah, so far in terms of like client work and building the actual design studio as a presence in the design world, I don't have much insights on that yet because all it's been so far, I've only worked on 3 projects since I've established that kind of entity, and we've made the website, made a whole video about that. That was cool. But other than that, I'm kind of operating the same as just an individual freelancer, but now I have that place to, host the client work and stuff. But in addition to just client work, I also always wanted a place to create my own products, sell my own things, prints, merch, zines, art, whatever, without it just being like Jesse Nyberg or Permanent Glue. I wanted a brand that can outlive myself and not just be you're buying it because you know who I am. Like, sure, maybe that's a bonus, right? And you get discovered that way or you support someone that way because you really like them. But I want it to be cool either way. And that's why I did Questa Studio. And the name is actually my last name, right? My name is Jesse Nyberg Questa. So I have 2 last names from my mom and my dad. Mexican one, Questa. Nyberg is my other last name, which is just, a mishmash of white, Swedish, German shit. Nothing like super concrete culturally like that, but I always didn't like having 2 names. It's just was even something as stupid as it was too much to write on my papers in high school, right? So I just went with the first one, Jesse Nyberg. But as this grew more and as Jesse Nyberg grew more online as like something that you can search up, or my YouTube channel, whatever, LinkedIn, all these different professional worlds. I still wanted to honor my other last name. So the naming convention for my studio being Cuesta is to honor that. And it has a nice ring to it. It looks cool. It's something abstract enough to where I don't think a lot of other people are going to want to use it. And it's just nice to honor, that part of my family, some of my Mexican heritage, and bring it into the design world. And so it's been pretty cool to launch my own products. And so far we have a couple things out, right? So you know what this is? Sponsored section. But instead of an ad, I'm sponsoring it. So far I've released this Bits and Bobs zine. By the time this comes out, there's probably a few left. A lot are sold right now, but if there is, link in the description. I don't know how to hold this and do this, right? But it's basically a zine of a bunch of random assorted graphics that I designed in kind of this DIY style. I wanted to pay a little bit of homage to the DIY scene and contribute to this world of zines, but also do some stuff that's graphic design-esque with typography and stuff. And I just think it's always really cool to create some kind of physical products, right? And bring stuff into a physical medium, because a lot of these personal design pieces just lived and died on the internet or on Instagram, and I want to give them a little bit more life. Every single one's hand numbered with the pencil, with the archival pencil, and even check this out. Bonus sticker pack with all the zines. You got this one. You got the Cuesta Cowboy, and then the core like bumper sticker, right? But in addition to that, this had such a good response, and it just felt so good to actually work on your own shit, It's really rewarding to work with big clients and make stuff, but this brought me back to when I was running a clothing brand in high school, and it just felt very grassroots and shipping everything myself and selling it and even running it through a big cartel site, That it inspired me to just want to make more shit. And, if it wasn't already niche enough to design some very specific aesthetic of graphics into a zine and sell it online called Bits and Bobs, how can I top that? By making a bumper sticker about rock climbing. We got the yellow colorway, probably my favorite, the safety orange, and then the full color. And I don't know if this is recording backwards or it's going to show up backwards, but basically says I'd rather be climbing, and a little cheeky on the nose graphic with all the words being spelled out with climbing holds. I really like the old aesthetic of bumper stickers, like keep honking. I'd rather be dry. I'd rather be this and that, like this, even the old Sport Chalet license plates. So I want to make something like that. If you're a climber, so check that out. I'll link that in the description below too on the website. Everything is just cuestastudio.bigcartel.com. But yeah, it's just been cool to make real shit and put it back out into the physical world and have some kind of direction to work on. I've done so much personal work in my lifetime in terms of concept work, just stuff that isn't for actual clients, but uses some kind of IP, right? Bands, artists, brands, whatever. I've done a lot of that concept proposal work. I've done a lot of just personal work, or like art, for lack of a better word, that is just abstract design work that really has no connection to any existing thing already. And that's kind of when it becomes the hardest, when you don't have any information to work with, any prompt, any series you're working on, any of that. Sometimes it just feels like the possibilities, when they're so endless, you end up not making anything. So when I have free time to work on personal work now, it feels nice to have this new brand and ecosystem to build towards, like Cuesta Studio. When I make stuff for fun now, I can make it maybe as products like that to create and sell. I'm actually working on some merch soon that I think is going to be pretty cool. And yeah, I've been working with a local screen printer that I've been talking to, and I'm definitely gonna, when I do merch, we're gonna do it right. We're printing on Shaka, we're doing it thick, we're doing garment dyed, none of that bullshit like Comfort Colors or Gildan or anything like that. I want to sell a high quality shirt or hoodie, whatever, at a fair price where it's not about just maximizing profits or getting the biggest margins. Like I want something that like I swear people make shit that they wouldn't even wear. And I'm fucking picky with shirts and hats and this and that. So if I'm not going to wear something, there's no way I'm going to feel okay selling it to any of you or whoever. But yeah, that stuff's been cool. So highly advise if you want to start doing some kind of independent studio for your own design work, fuck it, release merch, make a shop too. A big inspiration for me even wanting to do any type of products or whatever, because like there's tons of inspirations, right, for an actual design studio. You can find that anywhere. There's so many amazing ones. But Fisk Projects in Oregon, they make such dope work. Bijan, the guy that runs that, so talented. Their shit is so cool, and they work on such cool aspirational projects that I would love to be a part of. Like they're a big like inspiration just in design career wise. But not only that, they have their shop on their site and they make a bunch of dope shit. And it's not like, it doesn't have to be this big old brand that they're building out into like going into stores or anything that crazy, but just cool shit. Like it's like the gift shop, right, of the design studio. Speaking of the rock climbing, working as a designer, or anyone really that works from home, works in an office all day, works as a freelancer, whatever it is, if you're like me and you sit on your ass like way too often throughout the day, like way more than a human should, and yeah, I got the standing desk, but who really knows how much that's helping? It's so important to have something to move your body, right? And I don't want to just sit here and tell you like you got to grind, you got to work out a lot and do all this. That's not the point. Finding something that is fun, physical, and just gets you, it has so much benefits. Like when I discovered bouldering, it's not only a physical thing, right? I get stronger. It helps me, my mind, because it calms me down and it gives me a challenge to work towards. That's not some big, crazy design project or whatever. You really get to forget about that stuff and just focus on solving this little puzzle of climbing up plastic rocks. And it also, it's just good to get moving, right? It makes you feel better. I sleep better. It's building my stamina up, like lungs wise. And the grip and arm strength is just a good byproduct. Like it feels nice to be a little bit stronger and have a little bit more buff arms, right? Like I've been so skinny my whole life. It feels a little better to actually have, some strength. I haven't had any strength like this since I was doing like wrestling in high school. But that's just besides the point. That's just a happy byproduct. I think it's just really important for people who work in like the digital world a lot to have something to ground themselves and get the body moving and get away from just staring at a screen all the time. So I encourage you to find something like that works for you. It doesn't have to be climbing, but something that's fun, right? I think I like climbing so much because I never liked just working out or lifting weights or running. This is actually something that scratches all the right itches of the brain and the body and whatever. Anyway, that's not that big of a talking point, but the whole reason fuck it though. Climbing, I like it. We talked about it for a sec. The whole point of making these videos, right? These unfiltered thoughts. I haven't done one for a while. I think there's 4 episodes now. Essentially, I used to do a podcast, right? If you're an OG around here, there's like 100 episodes of some of me being solo and mostly me interviewing other designers and artists. I stopped doing that because I wanted to put more love and attention into the quality videos, the higher quality videos. But then there's certain topics and things I want to talk about that I don't think deserve an entire thought out, 10 to 20 minute video. But I do want to talk about it for a little bit. That's why I started this unfiltered thoughts thing. So Where else would I throw in the climbing little, what do you call it? Not true, tidbit, whatever I don't even know what that means. Little toss of information. Oh, so I have some stuff written down, right? That's why I keep looking right here to what else I wanted to talk about. Plagiarism. So there seems to be a lot of plagiarism in the design world, with the internet. And, there's a fine line between reference, inspiration, and then stealing. And you can argue in a lot of ways if someone's like kind of copying a layout or using the same fonts, using the same colors. I think there's a big gray area there with if that's copying or not. But when I'm talking about proper plagiarism, I see it a lot in the music industry. I don't remember who it was now, but I remember screenshotting it. Someone did some merch for Claro, and the illustrations that they used were just from some kind of children's book or some kind of artist who made these characters. And they did some cool typography and shit around it and added some effects to it. It looked dope. Don't get me wrong. Like, to say it wasn't cool would just be hating. But I think the problem is sometimes people who don't know like how stuff works with licensing, or they find something cool online, like on Pinterest or from an art book or whatever. And we have so many other stock image sites nowadays, like Unsplash and this and that maybe their brain is thinking like, oh, well, I found this online, I can use it. But if that was the case, all the shit we put out online would get stolen. And it fucking does sometimes, People be printing my designs that aren't even proper designs. They're like concept work on a shirt or some shit and selling it on Etsy. And it's just a square design from Instagram. But that's besides the point. But I've seen a lot of people doing stuff like that. And then they get called out. And man, like, I would be so embarrassed to get called out on that and then have to like argue myself. They don't even give a fuck. Like half the time they are like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, I stole the design, and then nothing kind of really does happen. They kind of have a point. No one does shit about it, and it just kind of goes on for the most part. Sometimes they'll bring the actual artist into it, whoever they're designing for, some big artist, Claro, whatever, and it's like, now you have this whole drama, and you probably ruined a lot of your credibility and rep just because you stole one thing for a design. And it's like, I think that the design world, there's so many talented self-taught people nowadays that we don't have a lot of ground rules or even like moral ethics on like stealing and what's right and what's wrong. Like, for example, myself and many others, I've stolen tons of like fonts and stuff, right? Downloaded them for free. Downloaded programs for free, whatever. But it's weird that as designers, we feel okay maybe downloading a font illegally, but someone made that, right? And that's their art form, and someone made that from scratch. And we're not paying for it, and people will steal it and use it. But if you steal like someone's drawing or painting or photograph and use it in their art, in your art, it's kind of like, oh, that's not okay. Why did you take their thing? It's like we have a spectrum of like, over here is maybe like fonts or stock images and stuff of like using and not crediting and it being okay. And then we have all the way to like a custom drawing or stealing an actual layout or a design element of like what people think's acceptable or not. And I guess everyone has their own moral and ethical compass or whatever you want to call it. But I try my best to always pay for anything that I can if it comes from a small artist. Like stealing a fucking big ass company's program or something, go ahead. I'm not here to like argue against that, but I think it's important to like pay for fonts from small type foundries, right? And independent artists. Pay for plugins that people are making, mock-ups. Like people are like, yeah, but you could just fucking steal it. I can just save it as a PNG. And it's like, that's fucked up, man. Like someone put a lot of work into that. this isn't some big corporation you're stealing from or ripping off. Like, you're not fighting the power by fucking ripping off an individual, just some guy, a girl, person, whoever's like little creation, you know. Don't steal other artists and designers stuff. I forgot I want to talk about pricing too a little bit. So pricing design work. I get a lot of questions about this online on Instagram and other various places. My thing with pricing has changed a lot over the years. It's gone up and down, left and right, all over. So I guess I'll just explain it like this. When I first started, I did stuff for very cheap or free. Design work for friends, local artists, family, sometimes even, whatever. That was like in college and stuff. A lot of the design work wasn't very good. I shouldn't have been charging a lot for it anyway. You know, I was doing things like $50 for a logo, or $20 for a logo or album art, things like that. We kind of stayed in that world for a while. Once I got a little bit better and started freelancing after college while I worked at companies, we were doing things like $500 for a poster, or $1,000 for album art, all the way up to like $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 for a full brand identity. Something that would take me like 3-4 weeks though. And I stayed in that world for a while. I didn't make any money from content or art or any other thing outside of official design projects for a while, 2-3 years when I was starting out. So I didn't have the privilege of denying. Like, I had to take on the big projects. I had to take on the more corporate branding stuff. I had to take on the stuff that actually paid the bills. And sadly, I had to deny or turn away a bunch of cool like bands or small artists or cool shit that would just be fun to work on, because I didn't have the time for it, because I had to put all my time and energy into those bigger stuff. As I've started to gain money though from doing brand deals through content stuff and just making a little bit of money from YouTube and things like that, since maybe 40 to 50% of my money comes from that now, or even more sometimes, especially when it's a good month, it's made it so now I still do work on some of the bigger paying design projects, but not just for the money. If I don't like them, I won't work on them anymore, because I now have the privilege of money from other resources. So now I mainly focus on working on design projects that I think are exciting. So if a smaller band, let's say, or a company or a friend wants to do something, I'll do it for a lot less, because it's fun and exciting. And now it's like I use the content money to subsidize doing more fun design projects. Because at the end of the day, I think it is a really difficult, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it would be easy I would have way less money if I only did freelance graphic design and didn't make any stuff from content. I'm not going to here to lie about that. It's really difficult to succeed as an independent freelancer in design, art, photography, whatever. I'd be okay, but it'd be a lot more tight. So, because just some shit doesn't pay and you can't do shit about it. If you don't want to work on the project and it doesn't pay well, that's your thing. If you do want to work on it, someone else is going to want to work on it regardless of the price. And that's what kind of sucks. I think we should have a baseline, especially when working with like big companies and stuff. I don't think designers should be getting ripped off. But when you're working with like a small band or something, if they're paying you $500, $300, that's like a lot of their money. And it's probably a big part of their budget. And they're trusting you to work on this thing. That's $50,000 or $20,000 to some big company, right? If you percentage their whole like net worth or whatever. So it's hard to expect to get paid like the big budget stuff from people who are doing cool, exciting, up and coming shit, because the money not there yet. And, you know, maybe they might get you later down the road too, you know. And it's not like you should do something in anticipation of getting more work later, because that's never promised. But something doesn't always have to be about pricing. So I made a video in the past where a project for me has to satisfy two of these three things. One, get paid well, make connections, or learn something new. So that means I'll do a project where I get to learn new fun shit and make cool connections with people, even if it doesn't pay well. Or if it pays well and the connections I already know aren't that cool, I want to learn something new. I want to try something, whatever. You get the point. 2 out of the 3. That's not some concrete, formula, and there might even be 4. One would be nowadays is it cool? Is it fun? Right? Will I have fun doing this? Can it satisfy that? Because if it's fun and I'm going to be making shit anyway, and money is all right that month from a bigger client, sponsored work, whatever, why would I not? We started doing design, or at least I started doing design because I like it, because I enjoy it, because I like making stuff. Why would I be mad to get the opportunity to make something fun? Even getting paid at all is pretty cool at that point. But you can't always be in this position. So remember, when I was back in where I wasn't always comfortable, I had to take a lot of the other projects that paid well. So I think what it's about is, one for you, one for them. Work on the fun projects to feed your soul and satisfy your artistic needs or whatever as a designer. And then work on one for them, for the companies, whatever, to feed you literally, to feed your house, your wallet, your family, all the important needs. Once your needs are met, one for you, one for them, one for you. And even I think David Lynch said that too with like movies, right? He makes the more Hollywood style movie so he can make his art house films, You see it in all types of industries. Design's no different. You may be thinking, how do I even get these clients, right? If I don't have any work. It's like those memes when you apply to a job. It's like entry level, 2 years of experience. How's that? Where do you get the 2 years if all the jobs need experience? How do you gain experience? It's kind of like that, right? How do you get clients if you don't have any work? That's where I think proof of concept comes in, doing concept work. And I've always been a giant proponent of doing personal work, concept work, just making shit for fun, especially when you're starting out. But lately, and I still think it's a good idea overall, but I just want to play like devil's advocate to myself and to things I've said in the past. As I become more of a official designer, or feel like more of a professional and grow and want to be like respected in the various industries, same reason I separated like the Questa studio. As I become more legit, sometimes I fear if I do too much personal or concept work, like let's say a fake album art or a redesign for like a band I really like. On one end, that's showing them you can make cool shit. You're just making something cool for a band you like, and that's fun. But on another end, I've been starting to think, is it devaluing like my work or my skills as a designer? Is it saying like, I'm already going to make this kind of stuff anyway, so why should you actually hire me or pay me? And that is a really sinister or not, what's the word? I guess pessimistic, or like that is kind of a glass half empty take. But it's just something I've been thinking about lately. I've done so much of that. I've done a lot of cool concept work that bands love, people love. But then I also haven't worked on a lot of proper album art, right? So if we're using this in a niche example of the music industry, like I had 4. Sorry, I'm going all over the place, but I'll try to wrap it all together. I had 4 2024 goals, right? Did 100K on YouTube, checked. Journal every day, check. Eat healthier and stay consistent on climbing. Check. For the most part, the eating healthy is up for debate. Work on at least 20 client projects. Got that. I think 20, literally, or maybe 19, but I'll give it to myself. But design official vinyl album art. I love music. I love cassettes, records, all that. One of my goals was to work on a big campaign like that. Didn't work out. didn't get to design official album art with or at least non-digital only. But all these people who make music and all these labels and stuff have complimented stuff that I've made, but then it doesn't transpire into actual work. So who knows? I don't know if that client concept work actually gets you more jobs or not. It's hard to say. What I will say is when people do hire me, they do reference a lot of the stuff I just made for fun. But I also know people who don't do any of that, and they work on the dopest projects. They have all the connections kind of behind the scenes, and they work with labels and they work with managers and stuff, and it seems to work out. So I guess that's a mini little call out. If you want to work with me through Questa Studio to make some dope vinyl album art, I want to do a big rollout for a band. So labels, artists, managers, anyone watching this, why not? If you're 30 whatever minutes into a video of me talking about random shit, which is probably unlikely if you're a musician that it would want to work on something like this, or a manager or artist, but hey, fuck it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think doing concept work is still a net positive because you're getting better as a designer, you're putting your work out there and you're trying to make connections? Or do you think the maybe chance that it devalues your image or name as a designer in terms of being someone who actually works on legit projects? Do you think that negative part of it outweighs the benefits? I still think it's a net positive for sure, but I used to think it was overwhelmingly positive. Now I'm thinking maybe it's more of a gray area, right? And depending on who you are. Let me know what you think about that in the comments, because I would really be curious about that. If your own experiences with that, or even just random thoughts, even if you haven't experienced much of what that is with concept work. Another thing I want to talk about is the algorithm. The Instagram algorithm specifically, that's usually what people are talking about when they say the algorithm, especially in the design and art world. I've went through so many phases of caring about it, not caring about it. It's like that bell curve meme, like, fuck the algorithm, I'm going to post what I want. And then you get here and you're like, no, you have to optimize it. You have to do reels. You have to do carousel posts. You have to ask questions in the thing. All that bullshit that the gurus tell you. Then you kind of get back and you say, you're in that like, fuck it, I'll do whatever I want. I think I'm in the fuck it, I'll do whatever I want phase right now of posting stuff on Instagram. But I definitely went through a phase of trying to optimize for reels, trying to optimize for the most shareable design work and cool stuff. And it was starting to rot my brain to worry too much about that and not making cool shit. Because at the end of the day, the coolest designed shit doesn't even perform the best on Instagram, I've noticed. It's simple stuff that's shareable. And I've made both. And sometimes you hit that perfect sweet spot where you make something that's so dope that all the designers fuck with it and all the just non-designers want to share it on their story and stuff. And that's cool. But even something as simple as like the aspect ratios, they always say post stuff taller, the feed is in this shape now. But when I recently made, not recently now, it was like in September, but I made these postcards for when I went to Switzerland. I'll throw them up on the screen right here. That is it was like a 4:3 or maybe 5:3 aspect ratio wide. No one would tell you to post that, right? Not only is it's niche typographic design, it's postcards for a trip I went to, mostly about a town called Leukerbad that people have probably never heard of, and it's in that aspect ratio. I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to make it. The only thing it had going for itself is I was with a bunch of other dope creators. The design work was good, and it was a bunch of slides to look through. But it did overwhelmingly better than a lot of my posts at that time. It did like 7K or something likes, which is pretty insane for just a design post for fun. And everyone was like, this is so cool, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's sick. And I was like, you know what? Man, maybe sometimes your shit just flops, and it has nothing to do with what caption you wrote, if it's a reel, if it's in square format, if it's carousel, if you're saying comment design to get my free guidebook, any of that bullshit that they say to do. Maybe sometimes if it's cool, it'll work out. If it's cool, it won't work out. Or maybe sometimes the thing that you made is just shit, Like sometimes I post stuff and they can't all be hits, right? But doing that gave me a lot more confidence in just kind of doing whatever I want online. I'm over worrying about that too much. And don't get me wrong, I still like bitch and complain about when stuff doesn't get a lot of reach or when the likes aren't there, especially when I'm trying to promote a video or a product or some kind of cool project I worked on that I'm proud of. But whatever, like post whatever you want, and I think it'll find a place for where it needs to be. And to I was about to say like the most corporate thing ever, like to piggyback on that into the next thing, like those people say on Zoom calls, to expand on that in the social media realm, since we're talking about that. Everyone always talks about that Tyler the Creator video where he's like, wait, so you made a whole album and you only posted about it once and that's it on your story? Like, be proud of the shit you make, repost it. I've been thinking a lot about that. Sometimes I think we get so sensitive about reposting design work, reposting reels, posting even something more than once to talk about something cool you made. But why? You made some dope ass shit. You put your effort and time into really making something and trying your best. You're just going to post about it once, and if it doesn't do well, you're going to be like, oh, all right, well, I guess this thing's whack. I'm never going to try again. Like, I've been reposting a bunch of posters and stuff. Maybe, I'll group them together. Like, here's a bunch of posters I made that were blue. Here's some logos I made that were in this genre, whatever it is. And it's like, then sometimes it reaches a whole new audience. People aren't worried about what you're doing so much, and people don't know all this backstory on you. So if you post a poster you made a year ago now, no one's going to fucking be like, hey, you already did this, bro. And if they do, fuck them. But the positives, you could show it to a whole new audience, right? And sometimes that first time you made that thing, your design was dope. It didn't have anything to do with how you presented it. Sometimes the algorithm just doesn't hit, or Instagram's down, or whatever, or something's glitched. Like, sometimes it actually isn't your fault. You can blame Mark Zuckerberg or Facebook or whatever. Sometimes that's just how it goes. So why would you not try again? Fuck it. Post another one. Do you want people to see this cool thing? Do you want to get more clients? Do you want to... If you want to do it, do it. I guess that's what I'm getting at. And this sounds like so... Even talking about this sounds dumb. Like, why would you care about what you're posting or reposting? Because people do. I have. Other people have talked about it. And this isn't like, I'm not the person to give anyone permission to do anything. But maybe if I hope that if more people say something is fine, that people won't feel any, type of way about it negatively. Even like time-lapse stuff and shit, right? I make a lot of hyper edited. Oh my God, I just spilled the coffee again and look how low it is. That's crazy. I spilled it at that level. Right. I've made a lot of videos as I've become more of a content creator that are more elaborate, a bunch of shots using the FX30 for nice camera, depth of field and angles. But at the end of the day, I'm still a graphic designer, and that's still what I want to showcase. I've been posting some time lapses and shit lately, and they still hit pretty good. Sometimes they perform better than other stuff. And that's like a OG Instagram or YouTube type of video to make, like a speed art or a time lapse. But it's like, fuck it. Everything doesn't have to follow a trend or use a specific sound. Like, put your favorite hardcore song in the reel. Like, use fonts that you like, not just the big ones that, pop up like Mr. Beast style. I guess I'm just feel like I'm in an era right now where I'm trying to be more focused on making stuff that's cool, that I enjoy, and that shows my creativity rather than optimizing for any type of audience. But if it does hit, it hits, and that's cool. So, I don't know. That's kind of all I think I have for that one. Here's what I will say. I have been posting a lot less on YouTube, and it's still a pretty decent cadence, once or twice a month for the most part. But I used to post like every week. I do want to do more of these unfiltered thoughts videos, but I don't want them to be like so back to back. I want to have at least two or three videos in between each one. But I will try to do these more often than every what the last one was. Fuck. probably like 6 months ago plus. So what I will say is if you did make it to the end of the video, drop some comments you'd want me to talk about in a future one. Message me on Instagram, ask me any questions. I do like having more topics and ideas to talk about outside of just the things I wrote down. So drop them in the comments. And if you made it this far, go to the website, link in the description, questastudio.bigcartel if you want to get some zines, stickers, whatever. If not, thank you for just supporting by watching the video, especially if you made it this far. I mad appreciate that. And shout out to Jackie O once again for the dope intro animation. Have fun making shit. Have fun designing. Whatever you're doing out there, I hope you're having fun with it. That's it. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.